Have you ever wanted to own an e-bike? Now is your chance to win one. The Genesys Knowledge Network, or GKN, is your all-in-one access point for Genesys resources. Whether you use the GKN to conquer an integration issue, get product updates, or search for education and training opportunities, your GKN story is unique, and sharing it in the community could win you an e-bike. It's easy as 1, 2, 3 to enter. First, click the link in this video's description or head over to the Genesys Welcome community and find this post. Second, submit a detailed story about how the Genesys Knowledge Network has helped better your experience with Genesys products. Third, wait for the winner's announcements. The winner will speed into summer on a new Cafe Cruiser electric bike. Don't tap those brakes. Head over to the Genesys community and race to the top with your GKN submission.
Hey everyone, well you heard it straight from Nicole. We're giving away our biggest prize in the community ever, an e-bike. We want you to swing by for your chance to win it. We hope you've all used the Genesys Knowledge Network. We love that they incorporate the community. They offer a great search tool if you've never tried it, and don't hesitate to share your story, big or small. Everyone has a shot at winning this thing. Cool. Now, what brings us here today? Next Monday, so just shy of a week from now, I'm going to be on a plane flying to Denver, and hopefully I'll see some of you there. I didn't know how else to celebrate the occasion other than doing a real quick episode with our most frequent guest, George. George is going to be in Denver with me, working the community booth, and we would love to see you there so that you can ask him your questions. But for now, we've picked a few from the community that we hope to surprise him with. So let's hopefully get some of you some answers, and let's hang out with George for a little bit. George, welcome to the show.
Good to see you.
You and I are going to be seeing each other in person for the first time. And if I'm doing the math correctly, it'll be 5 years since we've actually seen each other. Does that sound right?
Probably. Yeah. I've
we're
not been able to go to Experience or any of those conferences for a while. We've not been in the same place at the same time for a good bit.
George, I'm excited for Experience. We get to work the booth together with our friends, Clay Tyson and Natalie Nobles. They'll be talking about the Genesys Knowledge Network. You and I will be there talking about the community. I can't wait to see everybody. George, what are you looking forward to?
I'm just looking forward to seeing real customers and partners again. It's been a while since I've touched base with a lot of the folks, and I know people are going to be dropping by, and it'll be old times with some of them. Just really good to see the people I've been working with over the phone, over Zoom, whatever. It's just not the same as seeing folks in person.
Totally. And to give anybody who may be at the conference and watching this episode a taste of what they can get at our booth, George and I wanted to go back to our old school ways and do some classic Stump the Expert questions on the Q&A show, because at the booth, we really do encourage you to come by, say hey, but also don't hold back. Ask George your questions. Worst comes to worst, he can say, I don't know, but try to give you his best advice. I mean, George, you've been doing Genesys for what, 16 years?
Genesys Cloud, yeah, since it was beta, 2014.
Wow.
So 10 years.
And yeah, I guess Pure
Genesys 25 plus years. I've been with this company 25 plus.
In the meantime, I've picked some lucky community members to ask their questions on this episode. George, what do you think? Are you ready to see if I can stump our expert?
Waiting with bated breath.
So this first question caught my attention this morning, and I thought it would be a good one for us to warm up with. And this is the only one that George has seen ahead of time, because I feel like we've talked about this before, and I thought he could do a quick demo that might be helpful. So let's go ahead and start with Nicholas's question. He asks, has anyone implemented a way to accurately extract the data to start getting information on first contact resolution? Some of our teams are looking to report on how many times in a month people are contacting us on a given wrap-up code. I can't think of an easier automated way to get this info. George, I wanted to kick it to you because it looks like Nicholas and we also have Christy are interested in an answer, and I know you've got some cool stuff to share with them. So take it away, my friend.
Yeah, a couple of things came to mind, and one thing I wanted to point out real quick is just the external contacts feature. So what I have here is just an external contact, and this is for somebody who wants to just take a quick look at the interactions you've been having with a specific person. So under directory, you've got external contacts, and here I pulled up the interactions that I've had with a specific customer, Graham Alexander, and I just did a search, pulled up by phone number, and here I've got a list of, okay, Graham contacted via email. Notes here actually shows the wrap-up code for that interaction, but you can filter interactions in here. You can see, okay, what types were they and what direction you would look for inbound, for example, and then you could check for surveys, that type of thing. And then on each of these, you could click on that date and go into the interactions and should see the interaction detail for that particular interaction. And this is not a report, which is what's being asked for. I'm just pointing this out real quick because it's a feature built in and you can just check on individuals. If somebody calls in and says, hey, I contacted support 10 times, nobody's been able to help me, what's your problem? Well, you could go specifically in and look at all the interactions that person claims to have had. All right, so the answer to the question, I would say, is probably here in the interactions tab, because I can create a view that allows me to see a lot of the information based upon various columns that are available. And you got a ton of different columns that you could add in here in this interactions view. People have probably seen this a fair amount, but I've added in the wrap-up column, the queue, just to see what queues things are coming in on the ANI, which is useful if you want to narrow it down to a specific customer based upon the ANI. I've got remote in here. A lot of these are just the city state, because if you don't have an external contact associated, it won't necessarily show anything beyond the city state info. But it does show you the direction. Maybe I just want inbound, so I'll go ahead and filter. I want inbound interactions instead of the inbound and outbound. And then from here, you could actually export this data, and that's what people usually do when they want to massage it and do reports, that type of thing. So I could, one, save this view as wrap up. I could choose a default time period, could be this week, this month, last month, whatever. Let's say I do the whole month, save it. But then I have nothing in May, so I have to go back a couple of months to get to that. If I download it, then I can use the selected columns. I could email it to people, up to 10 people. I can schedule it if I want to do that every week or whatever. I usually switch over and I format the durations so that they come through in a nice, clear format, and use my own local time zone, that type of thing. You can choose the delimiter. I usually do CSV. You can also do PDF, but I like CSV so I can manipulate it. And then once you export it, pops up in your inbox as soon as the export is done. One caveat with this, you can only go back to data that's at least 24 hours old because of the way analytics works. If you try exporting data that's within the past 24 hours or so, it will usually give you a partial export, not the entire export. So this is good for going back before yesterday, if you will. And in here in my exports, I could download it and open it up and look at it, and then I can massage it. So just standard Excel document, if you will, for CSV, and I could manipulate it and I could filter the document. I could look for specific remote phone numbers, ANI I want, whatever, and then also the wrap-up codes I want. So I could see if the same customer contacted me, 5 times in the same day, that'll show up like this one. If I was doing tests, so it's my phone, my fake phone number that I use for dialing in. But this would be the customer calling in multiple times. Hey, I'm trying to get a hold of, okay, wrong party sale, whatever kind of stuff. So that's probably what I would do for the first contact resolution. I'd look for indicators that, hey, this customer called 5 times this day or this week or whatever, and the wrap-up codes are indicating that they're not getting the service they need. Hopefully that helps.
Thanks so much for that first answer. We hope it was helpful. We're going to move on now to Michael, who's a GCAP member. We love seeing GCAP members on the community. If you're not a member of GCAP, just remember it's free to join. You can earn points for doing things that you're probably already doing. So definitely check them out. This question comes from Michael. Michael asks, says, recently when we placed a user in inactive mode, the roles and permissions were deleted. Even the default roles disappeared. When we set it to active, we then had to reapply them. Is there a change we missed, or is this a glitch in the system? George, what do you think?
Sorry to say, I just doing a real quick lookup. I searched our back end listing of support cases. I found one that came up where somebody reported that exact same behavior as a bug. Development came back and said, no, that is the actual intended behavior. So inactivation removes the roles from a user. I didn't get a why, but that's just the way it's designed. So yep, you gotta re-add the roles when you reactivate somebody. Sorry to say.
All right. Well, George, no mercy from here on out. I picked some questions that have not received an answer, but a smart guy like you and handsome guy like you should have no problem with them. Let's talk with Sim real quick. I hope I said that name correctly. They write, is anyone dealing with a scenario where they want to send an email notification when the outbound campaign starts or stops? Can someone please advise what the possibilities are to handle this? Now, we've done a few different episodes on outbound campaigns, but I've never quite gotten to this where it sounds like he wants to send an email to alert teammates, hey, this campaign has started, and then again, hey, this campaign has stopped. That's how I'm interpreting this, but I have to say it doesn't really matter. George, what do you have to say?
I'm going to go into our developer center. I'll search for topics. What I was looking at is these notification topics. And outbound campaigns do have topics you can subscribe to. And I won't get deep into this, but you have WebSocket and you have EventBridge. A lot of folks would use EventBridge for this, but you do have to pay for that through Amazon Web Services. And what these topics do is they monitor stuff that's going on in Genesys Cloud. Genesys Cloud sends notifications for events that happen out to either a WebSocket, which is, if you don't know what that is, you'll have to get in with a developer and figure out exactly how those work. So basically, it would be a web address that we would send the notification to, and then EventBridge is something you set up in Amazon Web Services that you use to gather all these notification messages. Right here, it's a campaigns topic, and this one in particular sends out some information about campaign. So you can look at the schema here and see what's going on with the campaign, what information is going to come through, the ID of the campaign, and then the object, what's going on, the dialing mode. And this should give you within here eventually when a campaign starts or stops, I'm presuming, should be something that would be sent. It sends errors, rule set stuff, contact sorts, no answer timeout. Somewhere in here it probably has the start or stop. I'm not going to go through the whole thing necessarily, but what you can do to verify that I'm actually correct. You can subscribe to the topic in here. You would put in a campaign ID just to sample it, and when you subscribe, then it would actually put it into this section within the developer center. You can actually watch the topics. There's a little video in here that shows you what it looks like. And then you could start and stop your campaign. You can see the messages that come through, look to see if it has information that you want. And then you could actually have a third-party system that listens to that. And if an event comes in that a campaign starts or stops, you could use your own functionality in a script or something like that to gather the information and then send an email. That's one way you could do it. Just talking off the top of my head.
Okay,
Probably
cool.
an easier, but that's what comes to mind right away.
All right, awesome. Well, somebody out there, if you're listening and you have a better idea, try to find this thread. You've seen the what the thread discussion title is. Give it a search. Give us your best answer. We'd love to hear from you. All right, George, I'm going to keep the fast balls coming with this next question. It's about transcription in programs versus agent assist. I'm wondering if there's a disconnect when a queue as an agent, when a queue, I'm assuming it means when a queue has an agent assigned to it and is part of a program. There is a warning about transcription when assigning the queue to the assistant. Does this interfere with anything? Does it hurt accuracy for articles popping? Besides adding phrasing to articles, are there any controls over transcription accuracy? All very new and using some basic things right now. I don't think anything is broken. All perceptions with agents and knowing something should be showing and is not showing. So George, I wasn't sure if you would have a specific answer, but it does sound like Aaron is new here, and maybe you could kind of just point him to some good resources on how to get started.
Yep, and I'm not going to pull up all the interfaces and such because I get way too detailed, but with Agent Assist, there is that little transcription window at the bottom where the agent can see everything that the person is saying on the phone when they're talking. And transcription is using our transcription engine. So you should be able to go in and actually use the API to set up the dictionary that's used by our transcription. So that's something to look up in the Developer Center. It might even be in the Resource Center with a pointer to the Developer Center, but you can set up custom dictionary entries that can then be used by transcription. So that's the first thing I would look at. If you're using a third party like Nuance, something like that, or Google, for the transcription, then you would need to look into those resources as well for any dictionary entries or whatever you could put into them. But our basic transcription dictionary, and then that should not have any effect on what it's pulling up, because the articles it pulls up are just based upon a word match when it's digging through the various articles, trying to find something that matches up with the phrases that you put in on the articles. So for tuning the phrasing on the articles, you can put in multiple variations of what somebody may ask to bring up that particular article. But that's not related to the transcription directly. Hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yeah, and also, George, I don't know if you remember this. I barely remembered it, but the last time you were on the show, the main topic was actually on Agent Assist. So I'm going to make sure we get that link to Aaron, because we've covered Agent Assist actually twice on the show, once with you, and before that when the feature was released with the PM team. So we have some good resources to help you get started. All right, George, I'm not taking it easy on you, I promise, but we do only have one question left. I know you're thinking, Matt, we just got started. I need more than one question. Don't you worry. So a while ago, we had Alan joined the show to talk about WebRTC. It was back in January. Since then, I've had a partner come into the community, find that recording, and Alan did not get to answer all of the questions that Peter had. Peter came in a few months late, and he's been asking me if we can help. Well, Alan, I think, is getting ready for Experience. I may be wrong, but he was there last year. I would assume he'll be there this year. So Peter, if you're going to be at Experience, I highly encourage you, find Alan. He's the WebRTC master that I'm most familiar with. But George, before we started recording, bragged that he knows a fair amount about our WebRTC. Let's put him to the test. To get started, I'm just going to start at the top of this. A few outstanding questions I have is related to the global media fabric configuration for WebRTC. Can you confirm the following statements? We need to use force turn on the agent's phone setting to enable GMF phase 1. George, what say you?
So force turn on agent's phone, and it says phase 1 there, use a specific media region for WebRTC traffic. And yeah, if you want to force it to use a specific media region, you do have to use that force turn, to the best of my knowledge.
Without force turn enabled, the WebRTC traffic for the agent will flow through the public internet to the home region and use the home region's media server. I guess that's more of a true or false.
And that's technically false in that without force turn enabled, the media traffic will use, by default, will use the media region within those listed for that particular site that has the lowest latency. So if you have more than one media region listed there, then the client will just turn to the lowest latency one available in the list. And you can actually put the list in order. You can tell it, hey, try this one first and the second and so on. But it is designed to use the one with the lowest latency.
Next question.
And sorry, real quick.
Yeah,
and that's the WebRTC for the media signaling, like SIP signaling, or the WebRTC phone has to talk to an intermediate server that translates WebRT into SIP. All the signaling goes through the home region. It does not go through those remote regions. But the media goes through the remote region for whatever has the lowest latency is what it's supposed to do.
Okay. No, that's fine. Next question. The turn services provided by Genesys allow us to ride the AWS backbone. Without force turn, all media traffic will flow through the public internet over to the home region.
The media traffic, once again, will go to whichever region has the lowest latency if you have it, set up without force turn. And the media will then flow over the backbone or ride the AWS backbone. You don't need force turn to force that.
I'm looking at these last two questions, and George, maybe I don't have to read these. What do you think about this part?
When they say in the West region, I'm not sure if we're talking about the agent sitting in the West region with the organization being in East. But let me just describe it this way. The traffic always gets to the home region that the organization is part of eventually. It rides the AWS backbone to get there. So the edges themselves, the ones that handle the media traffic, the virtual edges, are all in the home region of the organization. So a WebRTC phone may connect its media to, and I won't say a local media region, it's once again, the one with the lowest latency is what we try to pick up on. So if you're in, let's say you're in the Philippines, the lowest latency might actually be Frankfurt for them to connect through for media to an organization that is based in US West 2. But the media eventually gets to the edge devices in US West 2 through the AWS backbone going to Frankfurt. So it'd go across the internet to Frankfurt, media there would pick it up, send it across the backbone to US West 2, and then once again the signaling would go across the internet to US West 2 directly. It would not go through that other remote region. So the path again really depends upon which media region has the lowest latency for it to try and connect to. Now, if you have a specific media region for a site, let's say you have people sitting in India in a contact center and you create a site for that and you'd set only use Hyderabad for that media, then it'll go to Hyderabad first, but then it will go across the backbone to US West 2. You can designate, okay, only use this media region to enable getting to the backbone to get to the home organization's region. Hopefully that's not too confusing.
It sure was for me, but hopefully it wasn't for Peter. Yeah. I think one last thing, Peter wanted to kind of make sure the way he understands it, the use of turn is suggested in the following scenarios. If media can only run through certain regions for regulatory reasons, use turn.
Yeah, force turn does help when you want to narrow down the IP addresses and that you're opening up for your firewall settings, definitely. So you could set that up by remote sites, and if you have contact centers where people are sitting behind firewalls and you just want specific IP addresses for their WebRTC phones, yeah, that's something you can do with force turn.
And then Turn has also suggested if the security team does not want to allow all AWS egress IPs, so we use Turn to limit the outbound ITs that we want to allow. I think that's pretty much what you just said. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at there. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if we want to optimize the agent legs audio path to ride the backbone versus public internet, we would want to use Turn.
Don't have to do it for that because you can set up the site to designate which media region you want them to connect through. That does not require force turn. That just requires setting up, which media regions to use in the site configuration. And once again, it can also be set up to just use the one with the lowest latency. So if you want to make sure it goes through a specific region, you can set that up. And then also if you want to use the one with the least latency, you can just use the default settings. But if you want to use specific region for IP address, egress IPs, then you need to use force turn, to the best of my knowledge. All right. One other thing that's not mentioned here, because it gets really detailed, I mentioned India as a contact center. They've got very strict rules on how calls placed from India can get to the outside world. There's a whole resource center article that talks about it. And one of the things that gets used there is AWS Direct Connect. So that's something in addition to what you're looking at there with force turn. With Direct Connect, you can also set up a direct connection to your contact center, an MPLS connection, for example, and have the media ride that to a point of presence in another country, which then would be the point of ingress essentially into the telephony network someplace else. Anyway, cool. I'm being kind of general there, but that's something else to look into, is the direct connect option.
All right, awesome. Well, we hope that was helpful. George, thanks so much for coming by, answering these questions with me. The good news is I get to see you here in just a couple of days because we're going to be hanging out in Denver, and hopefully we'll get to meet some of these people.
Yes, definitely.
All right.
Come see us.
Yeah, I say yes. Come ask George your questions. That way I don't have to. You can do it yourself. And excellent. I look forward to seeing everyone in Denver. Thanks for watching this episode. Talk to you soon.